In an abandoned laboratory, a rag doll is hanging from a lamp when the wire on its arm breaks, dropping it to the floor along with a spherical talisman. Shortly after the fall, the toy mysteriously comes to life and gets up rather confused. Without knowing where he is, the doll picks up the half-sphere and starts exploring the place until he finds a body on the ground. But before he can think about it, a strong wind starts blowing and knocks on the window, drawing his attention. Curious, the toy walks up to the opening in the wall and realizes that he is in a completely destroyed mansion in the middle of an abandoned town. Just below, the doll sees another of its kind and tries to attract its attention, but soon realizes that some parts are missing from its interior and that this is why it has no voice. With no options left, the toy keeps the talisman inside his body and runs outside to try and find the stranger, but during his search, he notices a light approaching and hides in fright, grabbing a bolt to knock the stranger out. After receiving the blow, the other doll says it's a friend and gets up to examine the newcomer's stitching, noticing a 9 stamped on his back. Excited, the guy says his name is 2 and that he's an inventor, asking the stranger what he works with, but as 9 can't speak, he takes him to a trolley full of lost objects and pulls the speech device out of a doll, putting it inside the newcomer. While making voice adjustments, 2 notices the talisman inside 9 and seems quite pleased with the find, saying that someone is always drawing this object. However, the conversation is interrupted by something dangerous that begins to approach. So 2 blows out the candle on his head, ordering the newcomer to hide in the can, then picks up a scrap blade to look for the creature that surprises him from behind, hitting him with a blow that sends him flying. In order to defend himself, the rag doll tries to retrieve the twin blade, and ends up being trampled on by the beast, who throws him far away, causing him to collide with the trinket cart and drop the talisman, being captured by the creature. While observing everything, 9 ends up making a noise and is noticed by the evil beast, who does everything he can to try and catch him, but 2 throws a rock at the hooded cat's head, making him change his target and bite him, leading him towards an abandoned factory. At the top of a building, 5 sees 9 faint in the middle of the street and decides to save him, taking him to the nursing room where he does some repairs on the visitor's sewing, even though he is only the mechanic of the group. Still confused, 9 tells them everything that happened and reveals that 2 was taken away by the beast, but 1 appears and starts fighting with them for having gone outside, saying that they will end up luring the creature to the hideout. Knowing that 2 is still alive, 9 tries to convince the leader of the group to go and rescue him, but 1 rejects the idea, saying that no one can survive the beast's attack. At that moment, 8 appears and starts leading them to a bucket that acts as an elevator, taking them to the next floor where 1 explains about the war that was going on when they woke up. According to him, the world was in complete chaos, with humans and machines attacking each other with all the firepower available. Alone in the middle of the battle, the dolls gathered together and started looking for a safe place, but 5 ended up being left behind and was hit by the robot's gas bombs, forcing 2 and 7 to return to save him. Because of the bombs, a toxic mist spread through the atmosphere and wiped out all forms of life, including humans, leaving only the dolls and the beast still alive. Frightened, 1 took them all to the sanctuary and has kept them hidden to this day in the hope that the creature will go to sleep just like the other robots, but that seems a long way off. Curious, 9 asks where it came from and why it's after them, but the group leader refuses to answer, saying that they should focus on keeping themselves protected now that 2 is gone. Once again, 9 says that he survived and 1 refuses to listen, ordering 5 to go back to the watchtower and take the guest with him. From above, 9 says that 2 has been taken in the direction of the factory and suggests they go and rescue him, but the mechanic knows it's dangerous and tries to convince his friend to give up the idea. Even so, the newcomer insists that it's the right thing to do and says that 2 would do the same for him, setting off alone on the rescue journey, but 5 ends up changing his mind and takes a map to guide them. Together, they begin to explore the outside and find the place where 2 was attacked, making them wonder why he was alone in such a dangerous place. Moving on, the 2 of them approach the abandoned factory and start looking for the tunnel that the map points to, but an extremely strong wind starts to blow and blows the parchment out of their hands. Even without the map, they are forced to continue their journey to escape the sandstorm, entering the factory through the first passageway they find. Seeing the beast's footprints along the way, 9 comes to the conclusion that they need a torch and takes an old lamp that he finds along the way, attaching it to the stick to form a sort of makeshift lantern. Moving on, they get closer and closer to the center and decide to deactivate the torch to stay in stealth mode, thus managing to find the two inside a cage. As the monster is nearby, they try to free their friend by making as little noise as possible, but the beast eventually hears them and begins to chase them, hitting 9 with a heavy blow. When the three of them are cornered, another ragdoll in a bizarre mask appears and manages to clamp down on the beast's jaw, leaping over it and lopping off its head with a halberd. With that, the mysterious doll removes his mask and reveals that she is Seven, an old friend who used to be a warrior, but who everyone thought was dead. After eliminating the beast, everyone celebrates, thinking that their problems are over, but from a distance, 9 sees the talisman and realizes that it fits perfectly into a nearby socket. Thinking it dangerous, 2 approaches to remove the object while saying that they don't know what it does, but it's no use and the artifact turns on automatically, sucking out the rag doll's soul and leaving it inanimate again. In a few seconds, a huge machine with hundreds of arms awakens and they run back in fright, leaving 2's body behind. Desperate, 7 leads the rest of the group along a treadmill that is broken in the middle, forcing her to attach her harpoon to a lever to act as a swing. Because of the weight of the 3 combined, they end up activating the switch that turns on the conveyor mechanism, making part of the factory work, placing various metal pieces on the tarpaulin and dropping them to the bottom. Hanging, 7 accepts her end and watches as the machine approaches to try and eliminate her, but the other 2 manage to draw the metal monster's attention and the girl manages to escape unnoticed. In this way, the evil robot turns his attention to the other rag dolls and begins to chase them, but ends up losing track of them and they take the opportunity to hide under a gear. Even so, the machine continues to search for the 2 until a distant noise distracts it, allowing 7 to approach to take them outside, but the metal predator is persistent and keeps trying to capture them while the group runs through the pipe. Even so, they manage to reach the outside where 5 and 7 fight with the rookie over 2's death, but since there's no point in moping around, they set off in search of new answers, while the machine reactivates the factory and starts building robots to form its army. Unaware of what awaits them, the trio head towards an old library where they meet 3 and 4, a pair of twins who are unable to speak but can communicate by blinking their eyes and projecting images. With the group almost complete, 7 says they need all the help they can get to finish off Brain, the machine they've awakened in the factory. As they are a walking encyclopedia, 3 and 4 show newspaper articles that talk about the creation of the robot and begin to project a historical document about a German general who forced the chief scientist to create these robots to keep the peace, but obviously, it was all a big lie and it wasn't long before he used the robots in the war, crushing his enemies. After a bloodbath, the machines turned against all Germans and started attacking all humans, making the scientist the #1 enemy of the state and starting the final war between men and robots. Curious, 9 says that the machine was awakened by a talisman and draws the semi-sphere on a piece of paper, causing 5 to immediately recognize the figure. According to him, 6 always designed this talisman and 2 collected it to study it, so if you want to find out more about the artifact, you'll have to return to the shrine to find the inventor's records. Knowing that she will be arrested by the former leader, 7 refuses to return and abandons the group, leaving the remaining 4 to infiltrate the sanctuary on their own, but while they are checking the documents that 2 has found, 8 appears from behind and captures them, taking them to 1, who starts fighting about them having awakened the brain. While they are arguing, 6 appears and shows a drawing of the talisman, saying that this is what caused the machine to wake up. Curious, 9 asks him to tell him everything he knows, but 1 says he no longer trusts the newcomer and orders his bodyguard to take all his belongings, almost knocking him down the elevator shaft. Furious, the newcomer says that the leader is a coward driven by fear, sparking a heated argument that is soon interrupted by a kind of animatronic bird. Trying to escape, 8 and 1 run for the secret exit, while the others jump into the elevator, but the sinister bird doesn't allow them to escape and breaks the bucket's rope, knocking them into the pit and leaving the sanctuary to chase the 2 fugitives on the roof. With no options left, 8 puts on his sink drain helmet and prepares to face the winged beast, throwing half a pair of scissors that hit the bird's turbine, causing it to fall on him and leave him hanging from a rotten wooden beam. With its target about to plummet, the creature turns around and starts flying towards him, while readying its harpoon, but 9 refuses to stand by and uses a copper plate to reflect the sunlight, blinding the bird and causing it to miss its shot, stabbing its harpoon into a wooden beam. Unaware that it is trapped, the creature tries to fly away and ends up falling because of the harpoon, giving 7 the opportunity to jump over it and try to hit it, but the bird can see its shadow and defends itself against the blow, throwing it away. Even so, the cloth warrior doesn't give up and advances towards the enemy, receiving a harpoon shot that pins her leg to the wall. With the girl about to be pulled away, 9 does everything he can to hold her, while 8 rushes to cut the rope, causing the cable to catch on the plane's turbine and tilting the entire structure by 180. Near the propellers, 5 has the idea of energizing the engine and asks for 6's help, causing the rotor to spin and pull the creature towards the steel blades, destroying it in a collision that explodes the plane's wreckage. As a result, a fire breaks out in the sanctuary and they need to find a new place to take shelter. However, Brain soon learns about the failure of his first creation and decides to forge a new monster to attack them, but this time using 2's body as a mold. Looking for a safe place, they return to the library where 6 shows the drawings of the talismans and the twins recognize the figure of a book. Looking at the pages, the artist realizes that the talisman is used to transport souls to other objects and comes to the conclusion that it is still possible to save 2, but 1 appears saying that it is totally useless and that they should go back to the sanctuary. Finding the reaction strange, 9 asks what he is hiding and the leader reveals that he sent 2 to the dump to be captured by the beast and to stop researching what he shouldn't, saying that this would be their downfall and that sometimes a member needs to be sacrificed for the good of all. Furious, 7 advances towards the old rag doll and puts her sword to his throat, but 9 manages to calm her down before anything worse happens, causing the girl to walk away from the group in frustration. Outside, 8 is playing with a magnet when he notices something strange nearby. Apprehensive, the bodyguard picks up his sword and starts looking for the intruder, coming face to face with 2, who has been placed on the tail of a snake to hypnotize everyone who looks into his eyes. After 8, the mutant snake goes after 1 and puts him under its influence, taking the opportunity to sew up his limbs and keep him totally immobilized. While he is being captured by the creature, 9 and 5 arrive at the place and the bizarre monster tries to hypnotize them, but the rookie realizes what is happening and manages to look away. On the other hand, the group's mechanic doesn't have the same agility and ends up falling for the sewing machine's influence, but 7 appears to help them, throwing his halberd and pinning the creature's tail to the wall. Trying to help, 9 grabs some tools from the mechanic's back and unties 1, while another puppet fires a crossbow shot into the creature's eye, causing it to retreat to the factory, taking the warrior and the bodyguard with it. After all the confusion, 1 wakes up and says they should leave as soon as possible to look for a safe place, but 9 manages to convince the rest of the group that the best option is to go and rescue 7 and 8. Before leaving, they give 2 a funeral and place a drachma over his eyes, pushing his body to wander the sewers for eternity. With that done, they approach the factory and 9 decides to infiltrate alone, saying that if he can't return, 5 must destroy the place while the machines are still inside. Inside, the mixture of snake and silkworm delivers 8 to the brain, which once again sucks out the doll's soul, but 9 observes everything and realizes that while it does this, her system shuts down completely, giving him a small gap to approach. When it's 7's turn to have her soul extracted, the newcomer decides to take action and attracts the snake's attention, causing it to fall into a trap and sew itself to a scarecrow that's stuck in the gears. With that done, he runs away from the mechanism that begins to pull the snake up, allowing him to run towards the creature and open a hole in its belly, causing 7 to fall into his lap just before it is crushed. Outside, the rest of the group is waiting for their return when one of the brain-made drones manages to locate them. To avoid problems, 5 throws a harpoon at the investigating robot and tries to pull it down, but this ends up activating the alarm that alerts all the other robots to the presence of the invaders. While 7 and 9 flee through the air duct, 1 takes the match from 5's back and tries to set fire to the fuel barrel, but as it's not time yet, the mechanic has to stop him and wait for his friends to get close enough, pushing the burning object towards the robots. After passing through the duct, the barrel arrives in the center of the factory, exploding Brain and the entire building, which has just collapsed. But as they celebrate, thinking they've won, Brain comes out of the smoke and starts advancing towards them with blood in his eyes. As he is furthest away from the group, 5 is quickly captured and has his soul sucked out by the machine, but it is still not satisfied and continues to chase the rest of the group to a train track that is collapsing. Because of the excess weight, the bridge begins to collapse and Brain does everything he can to hold on, causing 7 to approach to try to bring it down, but 6 tries to stop her while saying that the souls of his companions are still trapped inside. As a result, the artist ends up being captured by the creature, which plummets halfway down the bridge, forcing the others to run to the other side. Safely away, the group tries to find out if 6 is alright and they notice that he is shouting for them to go back to the room where 9 woke up, saying that there they will find the answers. After his last sentence, the painter has his soul sucked out by Brain, who drops his body into the abyss, returning to the wreckage of the factory shortly afterwards. After losing yet another friend, one manages to convince the others that the best option is to destroy the Brain, but 9 believes 6's last words and returns alone to the room where he woke up, finding sheets with the project of each of his friends. Behind the paper, he sees a kind of box that opens and begins to play a hologram of its creator, the same scientist who created Brain. During the last story, the scholar reveals that the machine was supposed to help with scientific research, but the German chancellor broke off the agreement and removed him from the project. Without a conscience, brains were easily manipulated and used to create super-technological war devices. As a last-ditch attempt to save humanity, the scientist decided to create the dolls by dividing his soul into 9 pieces, with the intention that his Horcruxes would use the talisman to guarantee a future full of life. Finally, he shows the pattern to open the artifact and passes the last part of his soul to number 9, losing his life immediately afterwards. With the end of the hologram, 9 now knows the secret of the talisman and sets off towards the factory where his friends are trying to get the Brain's attention to eliminate it. Even after hearing everything 9 had to say, 1 is still determined to put an end to the machine and fires in its direction, which only serves to make it angrier. Frightened, the group runs under an ammunition box where 9 suggests luring the machine while the others steal the talisman and free the souls of the departed, but Brain notices their presence and uses his flamethrower to ignite the projectiles, causing a shower of bullets as well as countless grenade explosions. In the middle of the confusion, 7 and 1 are hit and end up badly damaged, but 9 doesn't give up on the plan and goes into the middle of the open field to draw the enemy's attention. Sensing an easy target, Brain approaches and disconnects to begin the extraction process, but at the last second, 1 decides to sacrifice himself in his place and jumps in front of the newcomer, giving up his soul for the good of all. Since he can't miss this chance, 9 takes advantage of the breach and rushes to the machine, removing the talisman from its processing core. After devouring 1's soul, Brain sees the artifact in 9's hands and tries to retrieve it with his claws, but the doll is determined to put an end to this once and for all and repeats the sequence the scientist showed him, sucking the souls of his friends out of the machine, which shuts down instantly. After all this, the rest of the group prepares a funeral and frees everyone's spirit, allowing 2 and the others to leave the talisman to say goodbye before leaving for heaven. As soon as their souls pass through the clouds, a storm forms and a little rain begins to fall, bringing tiny bacteria from the atmosphere that will slowly make life on Earth flourish again. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps.